renaissance. He was going to sort of recover the superstar status that he really hadn't had since the Chandler affair broke.
From May 2002 to January 2003, Martin Bashir is given unprecedented access to Michael Jackson. But instead of focusing on Jackson's music career, he and his producers focus on capturing scandal.
It's okay, just get yourself out.
After scandal.
The dangling baby incident was a big moment because it was a moment when Michael really felt the world turn against him. Nobody defended him for the baby dangling incident.
It was this really, really poor decision-making that happened because he was trying to please everybody that was there. Michael is the ultimate people pleaser. It's where he gets his validation. And I can just imagine as a child, that's how he was with his family.
But the biggest scandal in the documentary is yet to come. And it will give Tom Sneddon the break he's been looking for. Because of its implications, the face of the accuser has been subsequently removed from future airings of the documentary.
During the documentary done by Martin Bashir, Michael Jackson said that to share his bed with a young boy was the most beautiful thing in the world.
The question was and remains whether that was an emotional need or a sexual need.
I saw nothing inherently wrong with that scene. If you look at all the outtakes that were not included in that show, Michael Jackson is very adamant that he never would ever harm a child, and he was simply talking in a very kind way.
Living with Michael Jackson airs in February 2003 to a worldwide audience of over 40 million. And it reignites the public's concerns about Michael's relationships with children.
The Bashir documentary comes out and the whole world is horrified. Sneddon holds a press conference. This is very disturbing and they're certainly going to look into this matter. And then through the incredibly convoluted process that followed, eventually he had a case.
Months after the documentary airs, the accuser alleges that Michael Jackson sexually molested him. A team of sheriff's investigators, led by District Attorney Tom Sneddon, raid Neverland Ranch in search of evidence that Michael Jackson is a pedophile.
Okay, that's locked.
This room was filled with sexually explicit magazines and books and materials. Some of them were oriented toward children. The kids had told us that these magazines were shown to them. We found their fingerprints on them.
There were a couple of books that were sent to Michael Jackson unsolicited. One was a homoerotic set of photographs sent to him by a world-famous photographer in Italy. There was another book called The Life of a Boy in Pictures. They also found a huge amount of Playboy and Penthouse magazines. The prosecution tried to turn that around and say that he used Playboy and Penthouse magazine to groom young children for molestation.
Michael Jackson is arrested. If found guilty of all counts, he will spend the rest of his life in prison. In January 2005, the people of the state of California versus Michael Joseph Jackson begins. The media dubs it the trial of the century. Inside the courtroom, the defense calls witnesses, including Wade Robson and Macaulay Culkin, who all claim nothing inappropriate ever occurred between them and Michael Jackson. Jordan Chandler again refuses to testify, and the prosecution's case is quickly falling apart.
We didn't have adequate corroboration. I think that the absence of the other children who could have come forward, that hurt us. I think the celebrity factor was profound.
The prosecution's timeline of when the acts of molestation occurred also presents problems.
They initially stated times molestations took place, but it came out that Michael Jackson had a rock-solid alibi for those dates. Well, then the prosecution amended that to say that the molestations took place right after the Bashir documentary aired.
What they were trying to argue was that the Bashir documentary took place, that there was a firestorm of criticism around the world over that documentary, and they claimed that in the middle of all of this, he started molesting young boys. It was absurd.
For nearly 5 months, the trial drags on. And while the world waits in anticipation of a verdict, some in the media have already made up their minds.
He has a tendency to pick out very vulnerable children.
We know nothing. They need to let her say, I love you, get well soon.
People in the media invested their entire careers on seeing a conviction.